Thank you for turning to 10, your news leader. 10 News Conference with Gene Valicenti continues right now.
I have a lot of respect for him,
Yeah.
but I also have a lot of respect for the institution. And my primary job is to represent my constituents and to make sure we can get the work done that we need to in the Rhode Island Senate. And unfortunately, I think the Senate President's absences have made the Senate weaker.
Okay.
And our colleagues are looking for an institution that can work on the issues that are important to Rhode Islanders.
That's the old number two. He was swapped out for the new number two, who we're going to meet in just a second. In the meantime, the number one man, the Senate President Dominick Ruggerio, he's still calling the shots up there. He's in studio with us. Welcome back, Senate President Ruggerio.
Good to be here, Gene. Thank you.
How'd that make you feel when Pearson said that he was concerned about your health and your ability to continue to lead? He used to be your number two. He was right in there with all the meetings. How'd that make you feel?
First of all, I didn't think it was an accurate statement. For example, on health care, we passed 11 of our health care bills that were submitted this year.
Right.
I think that's substantial. That's what we were focused on this year because of the lack of doctors in this state.
Yep.
And that's what the Senate felt was a priority this year. So we did pass a substantial amount of bills.
Right.
We've passed some bills for the homeless. We passed a number of pieces of legislation, and I was involved in all the legislation.
Yeah. I'm going to let you fill out everything. We're going to meet your new number two deputy, Senator Val Lawson. Welcome, Senator Lawson.
you.
But,
Okay.
but first, he felt there was an opening because of your personal health concerns. Now, you've been open. You've been suffering, dealing with cancer. You've been in and out of the doctor's office. Nobody likes to discuss their health in public, especially not on television. But you're in politics, so it becomes an issue. I want you to address that. Pearson and there's some other senators now are saying you're not up to the job anymore. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know how they could make that determination. I am feeling a lot better than I was feeling last year. Mm-hmm. My doctors are really enthused about the treatment I'm getting, and I'm basically pleased with what I'm going through right now.
All right. So are you mad at what he said? Are you mad at him? I understand you haven't spoken to him.
I haven't spoken to him, but I'm not angry with what he said. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
All right. You're back. You're the boss, and I'm not going to dwell on the health concern because there's so much to talk about. Senator Lawson, you're the new number two. Just a year ago, he was here. Now you're in that seat. Do you want to support the leader? Is too much being made about his health concerns? What do you stand on this?
So I'm looking forward to this session and working with the Senate President in, addressing the priorities that our colleagues in the Senate, that the Senate President addressed, and working with them to make Rhode Island a better place. We have a lot on our plate, and that needs to be our focus, right? We need to fix what we can and address the concerns we have for Rhode Islanders. And in the Senate, we've been working on health care, right? Mm-hmm. Primary care reimbursement rates are a big concern. Another thing that we want to focus in addition to that is for pediatricians as well. So those are some of our focuses. And as the President mentioned, many of those health care bills last year got passed. And some of the ones who didn't were still being worked on in the Senate. So the work continues, and that's what's really important here.
All right. In a sense, I think you're right. That's old news. That was last session. Pearson's gone. He's back. He's back as a regular member, but he's not in the leadership team anymore, and that's kind of old news. What happened? What didn't get passed last year? We want to move to this year. Listen, we've got a fight going on with the homeless advocates and the governor. They're demanding that he declare a state of emergency. He's refusing to do that. He says it would be counterproductive. Do you want the governor to do that, declare a state of emergency? You've been following the news this week.
Well, I don't think the state of emergency is necessary, but I think that some more work and it should be a little more aggressive as far as the homeless. I mean, it's winter time, and there's a lot of people out there without shelter. So I think that should have been addressed a while ago, and we did appropriate a substantial amount of money for that purpose, Gene.
You did, and you've been very generous with the advocates. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars over time, tens of millions immediately, millions and millions. Senator Lawson, are we getting our bang for our buck? Because they come back every year and say it's not enough.
Right, we need to consider all options in whatever can get, as the Senate President said, people off the streets and into environments where they're safe and warm should be first and foremost right now. It is disappointing that it's been all of this time and we knew this was coming, right?
Yeah.
So I think to your point on housing, what's been happening is we've allocated historic funding, but what's frustrating is the results are taking longer than we'd like, right?
Well, the governor says he's frustrated that he can't get an accurate count from the homeless advocates. And by the way, the housing secretary just said, I can't vouch for whether or not there are 600 people. They all count differently. It's a kind of an open-ended question. And he says, I've done more to help the homeless than any other governor. At what point does the taxpayer say, where's all this money going? Why do you come every year and say you need more and there's more homeless people? Go ahead, give it. I mean, the taxpayers demand an answer at this point. They've been very generous. So either of you can take that. Senate President?
They have been very patient, and we have been very generous. We just feel that we should be more aggressive in finding places for these people to live, even if it's temporary.
Right away, it's an emergency.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and I are taping on a Friday. We've been fighting over this all week. Yesterday, the Providence City Council demanded a resolution. He's got to demand a state of emergency. You're not going that far? You don't want him to declare a state of emergency? Do I take the same thing from you, Senator Lawson?
No, we should consider all options to get these people housed. That's what we need to do.
Okay, if there's any money coming, it's got to come out of the budget. Right now, you got a $300 million shortfall. The COVID money is gone. The good times have rolled. Senate President, what are you going to do? Your counterpart, Speaker Shekarchi, said maybe raise taxes. Maybe, didn't rule it out. What do you say?
Well, the Speaker said everything is on the table, and I think that's true. However, I think, as I said before, there's a substantial amount of money that is earmarked for housing, and that's not part and parcel of the budget itself. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think that's something that we should get on top of right away.
You're talking about affordable housing.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys worked on that last session, but any emergency extra supplemental money for shelters and things like that, is it there, Senator Lawson, or right now you're looking at the $300 million hole?
Well, I mean, right now, we need to exhaust every avenue there can be for us to address this. And what we need to also be looking at is the same time is we need to prevent this in the future. So the money we've allocated really needs to be able to provide more housing in the future, right? So that's another source of frustration, right? We have this crisis now, these people need shelter, and that should be addressed right now. But in addition, we have to also be working to make sure in the future we're not continually facing this problem, right? That's another source of frustration here.
Okay, let's just separate affordable housing and the homeless, put it over here, but let's talk about the $300 million budget hole to begin with. Speaker Shekarchi said, I can't rule out a tax hike. Can you rule that out?
I mean, like the Senate President said, that's part of the process.
Can you rule that out, or it might count to pass?
I won't rule anything out at this time, Gene. As the Speaker said, everything is on the table. I'm hoping that we have a shot of revenue that we could use for to address this situation. So we don't know yet until we start looking at the budget, and we haven't even seen the budget yet. So it's going to be interesting when it comes out.
Is there a drawer you could open and say, I could cut here? I mean, you know it better than anybody. Is there an area that you say, well, it's time to cut?
Well, I wish, but I don't want to say that at this point in time until we see what the budget contains and what the governor's thinking as far as the budget and down the road. Like I said, I hope we get some infusion of revenue that we can utilize for those purposes.
Where would that infusion come from? I'm just curious, where are you hoping to get this from?
Well,
Well, the projections could be better.
Okay,
They have
yeah.
been in the past, so
Yeah.
that's something. I mean, we're early on in the process.
Okay, so you're saying that the projections could change. All right, do you see anywhere to cut? Is there anything that, oh, right away we can go here?
Yeah, no, I don't think the process is that simple, Gene. There's a lot of need out there.
Okay, look, quick break, we'll be back. Well, we got to get a lot to get to. Hasbro and the Providence schools and everything else, but stay with us. Senate President Ruggerio, his new number 2, Val Lawson, is with us. Welcome back to 10 News Conference. Senate President Dominick Ruggerio in with us. I know there's new number 2, Senator Val Lawson, new number 2 deputy. Truck tolls. The state prevailed, won the case. You can turn those gantries on. Are you inclined to do that, Mr. President? Turn the truck tolls back on?
absolutely. I figured we had a 50-50 chance of winning in that case. Obviously, we did prevail. I think it's something that we should have had a long time ago. Because trucks are the ones that do the most damage on the road.
Now,
so.
you've got to figure out how to not favor local truckers, because that's what the judge said. You can turn them on, but you got to charge every truck the same. What is your thinking? How do you get through this part so you can turn them on? How are you going to give the Rhode Island truckers a reasonable passage, yet still get what you need from the out-of-state? Do you have the formula for me today? Do you know what to do?
Well, I think that's where we are, right? We have to figure out how we can move forward with truck tolls, and it's constitutional. That's our charge now.
But have you figured it out yet? Because Job Lot doesn't want to get whacked. They have trucks running all around. I know the last deal favored Rhode Island truckers. They gave them a break, but the new deal can't. Have you figured out how to do this?
There
There are a number of ways. I think we can affect their registration, give them a break on the registration, and do something like that, Gene, so we can give local trucks a break.
And we're having those those conversations are happening now, but we're not supportive of tolling cars.
I understand. Nobody wants to go down that road.
Nope.
Right.
Speaking of roads, Mayor Smiley the other day says he wants the schools back. Wants the schools back from state control. Are you inclined to do that? It's the governor running the show, but you had a lot to say about that. You've always spoken about your concern about education. Are you ready to give the Providence schools back to the city to run?
I don't know the situation at this point in time. I know they want the schools back, but do they have the money to finance that? I think we need deeper discussions with the mayor of Providence in order to make that determination.
And I think those conversations are happening, and I know that there's going to be a report released on that. And the city has to be ready for the takeover. The people, the teachers and the school department have to be ready as well. And it has to be in the best interest for students and educators. And we just have to make sure when that happens, that should occur, because it's probably the best practice for a district to have their own control.
With regard to the Washington Bridge, are you satisfied with the way that's progressing under the DOT and the governor's stewardship? Are you satisfied with the way it's going? They have a goal. They've got 2 contractors competing. We'll know this summer, and then we start reconstruction.
So I think that's been a source of frustration, especially for me as the senator from East Providence. I'm on that bridge every single day. I think we have to do better. We have to, we still have to have oversight hearings and find out what happened. Our focus now, we need to rebuild that bridge. And we need to do it right. And it's just a quality of life issue, so we have to make sure we get it done right and figure out what happened and never prevent it again.
I know you're not happy with what happened, but are you satisfied at least with the state trying to fix it and the timetable they've laid out and what's going on right now?
Am I satisfied? I think they have to rebuild the other side that they're rebuilding now. But I'm relatively satisfied that they have contractors that are going to be working on that project.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not satisfied with what happened with that bridge. I mean, that bridge is I think 60 years old or something.
Do you know what happened? You know, there was a forensic investigation. I don't have access to it. Do you know what happened?
I do not know what happened. I am going to have discussions with the director of the Department of Transportation to get, a little deeper discussion on it. Obviously, it wasn't the state's fault because it hadn't been inspected by the director or anyone like that, to the best of my knowledge. But I'm going to find out.
And all Rhode Islanders want to find out. We all want to find out.
Do you know? Do you know
No,
what
I
happened?
do not know. I would like to know. And we need to have transparency, right? And we need all Rhode Islanders to be confident in what we do in government is a good product. And we need to make sure that happens when we rebuild this bridge.
You support efforts to prosecute the contractors who are working on that and inspecting. You know, the governor, I don't think he tipped his hand accidentally when he was on my radio show. He said, well, we should have been told by these companies that we need a new bridge, not to repair the old one. I don't know if that's part of the strategy here, but they're saying that he's saying he got bad advice, and I don't know if that's going to be the play. Does that ring with you?
I mean, I think we need to do our due diligence in how that lawsuit proceeds. We need to be advocates for the state, for Rhode Islanders in the state. So we need to follow that through and figure all of this out. And that lawsuit's up to the Attorney General and that council, and they need to proceed forward in the best interests of Rhode Island.
All right, let's go to the data breach, which happens to be ironically called Rhode Island Bridges. What a name for that. Deloitte, you were here when Raimondo put the system in and it all was screwed up and the lines and everything. What do you have to say about this hack, this data breach, and what we're doing and where we stand with the social services system?
Well, obviously, Deloitte handles that, and they're the ones that are at fault, for what happened over there. We are really concerned about that because obviously we're getting a lot of calls from people that are very upset as to what's going on, Gene. So, in light of that, the Senate is going to formulate a committee that's going to deal with that type of issues, oversight on
artificial intelligence and emerging technologies. Okay. And this was a thought process that happened before the breach, but to the Senate President's point, hundreds of thousands of Rhode Islanders are potentially impacted, and we need to make sure that their information, that they're protected.
The governor told me he was aware of no ransom paid by Deloitte to satisfy the bad guys, and hence some of the stuff was dumped on the dark web. The money was there. In other words, your money for your SNAP and your EBT, that's always in your account. It was the information you gave to qualify that was breached. Do you know if Deloitte paid the ransom? Have you been brought in on these discussions? Do you know anything I don't know?
I don't know if that's the case at this point in time.
Senator Lawson, what are you hearing around the State House halls?
I have not heard that they have been paid. And I think most people believe that, that encourages bad behavior, and that's not the appropriate way to address it.
We've got about 2 minutes left. Let's talk about as a bid to pass an assault weapons ban. And I was reading that you may be softening on this. Could you make that clear for me? Where do you stand on this, on the governor's? The governor's pushing this, an assault weapons ban. And this always gets people arguing over definition of assault weapons and this and that. But you know what we're talking about. Are you softening on that, Senate President?
Well, obviously, it's like anything else, Gene. Legislation submitted, we'll hear it, and we'll see what the testimony is, and we'll make a determination after that. So I haven't made up my mind, but I'm not, I'm not really adamantly opposed to anything right now. I mean, we've done a lot with guns, as far as safe storage and red flag issues and ghost guns and a number of issues like that. And we're going to see if that's adequate, and if it's not, we'll address the situation. So, but I don't want to reach out and say, here's what we're going to do, Because I don't know that's what we're going to do at this point in time.
Got about 30 seconds when you go back. Well, you're back already, but the real work starts next week. Just 30 seconds. Number one priority, Senator Lawson, number one?
Well, I think probably the Senate's number one priority is health care and reviewing the primary care reimbursement rates. And like I had said earlier, extending that, even looking at pediatricians. We're in a healthcare crisis. And as you mentioned earlier, the housing situation is another area of importance to us.
All right, Senator, I'll give you the last word. Senate President Ruggerio, your number one priority when you go back?
Number one priority is examine the feasibility of creating a place at URI to address the healthcare crisis as far as the pediatricians, doctors of that nature. So that's what we're looking at, and URI I think is the perfect place for it, and that's where we are right now.
Got to hold it there. Thanks for coming in. I wish you the best of health and you the best of luck as you go back to work. That's 10 News Conference, your number one longest running political show in Southern New England. Reminder, watch all our interviews on turnto10.com. See you on the news and the radio next week.
Thank you, Gene.
Good to have you in.